but you're down out in the cold, faithless and dark, your story's untold. Come take my hand and walk there with me. I know a place where we can be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We love having you here, and it's our mission to bring you all the latest and greatest tips, skills, and know-how to make you the best that you can be. We know that you have it in you, and we're going to show you how. Now, let's get started.
Have you on the show once again? This is Omobola Stephen. You also Life Well Lived for Omobola Stephen. You want to catch up with any of my missed episodes? Simply go online and search for Life Well Lived for Omobola Stephen on any podcast distribution platforms, and you have an amazing time listening to the talk show today. Now, how can you become unbroken? And that's a great question. So, welcome with me on the show today, Micheal Anthony, aka Micheal Unbroken, who is the founder of THINK UNBROKEN, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, podcast host, and an advocate for adult survivors of childhood trauma. Hi, Micheal Anthony. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, my friend. I'm very excited to be here with you today.
All right. Excited to have you on the show. And I'm looking forward to your expert and professional insight on the topic of discussion today. So, Micheal, what does it mean to be broken, and what's the feels about being unbroken?
Yeah, I think that's going to be defined differently depending on who you're asking the question. And I look at broken as this place in life where you just feel stuck, where you feel like you can't show up for yourself, where you feel like you don't know how to love yourself, where you feel like all the things in life and the world have been against you the whole time. And somehow you can't seem to pull yourself up. And that could be because of abuse, that could be because of poverty or being homeless, that could be because of, a multitude of different things. But ultimately, I think what broken really is that place where you're just like not living life for you. And to move through that, to get unstuck, to learn to love yourself, to ultimately do that thing that is my mission in helping people become the hero of their own story, that's being unbroken. To me, being unbroken is that moment that you put your feet on the ground and you say, I'm okay with who I am, despite all the things that have happened, despite the flaws, despite the way that the world may view you. And if we all can get to that place of understanding that it's okay to love ourselves for who we are, that's how we are unbroken.
Sure. Now, what are some people's stuck in life, right? And how can they get unstuck?
I think that anytime you look at your life, I don't know that people necessarily know that they're stuck, right? I think that that might not be the words people use, because if I go back and I look at my own journey, it just felt like something was off. You know what I mean? Something wasn't working. Something didn't make sense. And I think the first thing that you can do in that is just simply acknowledge. Just look at your life and go, okay, there's something here that's in my way. And that could be something that happened to you when you were 7 years old or 14, 28, it doesn't matter. But there can be something in your way where you're like, if you just take a moment and you acknowledge it. Now, let me be clear. Acknowledgement doesn't mean culpability. It doesn't mean you're taking responsibility for it, right? Because I think that anyone who had something very traumatic happen as a child, that's like not your fault. And you can't take responsibility for that. But in acknowledgement, what happens is you actually get to address it. Because think about this. You've heard the old adage, like the elephant in the room. When you acknowledge the elephant in the room and you bring attention to it, well, then now you can get it out of the room, right? And if you don't, it just stays there. And so what I'm always thinking about is step one, just simply acknowledge, look at what your life is and say, okay, something here is not right. Something doesn't fit. Something needs to change so that I can move forward. That's always step one to me.
Right. Great insight you got here, Micheal Unbroken, right? Someone once said, to be successful in life, you need support, right? Would you like to bring this home?
Yeah, I think success in life, first and foremost, is something that you have to define for yourself. And I think we get tied up so often into other people's definition of success that we start measuring it in a way that's not practical for our lives. Where suddenly, because think about this, if I measured my success versus you, how am I ever going to know if I'm successful? Because we're not the same person. And yet that's kind of the measurement that people often use, where we look at it and go, okay, you know what? I'm going to measure myself against all these super rich, famous people, celebrities, athletes, superstars, singers, things like that. And what I'm always thinking about is like, what if you just measure success against who you want to be? Who you want to be today, the actions you're taking today, the movements that you're taking today, and measuring yourself as, can I be 1% better or different than I was yesterday? Can I push myself a little bit harder? Because ultimately, I think the only way we're ever successful is if we define it for ourselves.
Right. Micheal, it's always considered as a trauma survival, right? How can we avoid a re-traumatization? Any insight?
Yeah, well, I think that comes into learning and understanding tools, right? Having things like therapy and coaching and self-help and personal development. I think one of the biggest things that happens in our childhood is when we have traumatic experiences, we don't necessarily have any control over what's happening, right? You think about it as a kid, you don't really get any say in what's happening in your life. There's always kind of an outside influence, being your parents, being your peers, your teachers, your community. And when you get to become an adult, the thing that you have to understand is that you're actually no longer a child. And so because of that, what you have to do is measure your life in this way that you're trying to always have the tools in place to avoid that happening, right? Because here's what happens, like traumatic experiences, they carry weight with them, right? If it's true, which I believe that it is, that we are the sum total of all of our experiences, then that means the things that happen to us as children and teens and in our 20s and 30s and 50s, however long, every moment until right now, informs and shapes who we are. And so because of that, if you have tools, right, if you understand different things like breathing or meditation or journaling, or you have a coach or you have a therapist, which I think everyone should, or, whatever it is in your life where you have support, this is the thing that people are often missing because they're trying to navigate life alone. But, what's really fascinating is I don't know of anyone who's ever done anything great by themselves. We all have support. We all need it. And so I think the best thing that we can do is just be prepared, right? Preparedness is so important because if you have tools in place, if you have an understanding, and more importantly, if you've started doing the work on yourself and begun the healing process and done the things that you need to do, what's really amazing is that when events happen and experiences come, which they will, right? The world will continue to be chaotic because I think it always has been. But when it continues to do so, you will be prepared.
Sure. Thank you for that insight. Now, letting yourself feel broken is the key to feeling whole. Is this valid enough?
I mean, I would say that's contextual. Some people will agree with that. Some people will not. I think that in order to feel whole, as the way that you phrased it, is that you have to allow yourself the full human experience, right? So many of us, we stuff down our feelings, our emotions, our happiness, our joy, our sadness, our anger. We try to hide from who it is that we are as a person. And in that, I think that you actually take away from yourself. You take away your potential. You take away the very essence of what it is that makes us be a human being. So in some aspect, in some essence of the question, yeah, I think that you have to be able to feel. You have to be able to tap into your emotional human side to be human, because to deny that is to deny the very thing that makes us human beings. And so often we put ourselves in this position of, don't cry, be tough, stand. And I'm like, maybe you need to cry. Like maybe that'd be good for your soul. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. All right. So, Micheal, why do I need to educate myself in order to heal?
Well, I have you can't see it, but in front of me right now, there's a sign that says mindset is everything. And I believe entirely that education is the most profound tool that we have in our journeys. And that's across the board. And understanding not only just the baseline science and research is beneficial, but also looking at and studying those who have come before us, those who have done the thing that we're trying to do, and studying what they've done. Because I think that there is value in measuring the data of what people have been able to use in terms of creating success in their life. And maybe even more importantly, evaluating the data of things that people have done that have not been successful. Because I don't know about you, if somebody's tried something 900 times and it didn't work, I don't want to try it. That doesn't make sense to me. Right. But learning is everything. And I go back to myself as a child. I had no interest in school. I did not go to school. I never showed up for class. If I was there, I was not paying attention. And now I read somewhere between 60 to 70 books a year. I attend conferences. I'll go to, I don't know, 10 conferences this year. I will be learning and listening to podcasts like this daily. I have mentors who are incredible business people and change makers in the world. And so because of that, education is the very singular thing that has brought me to this moment with you, because I started investing in myself, and that was going to the library, that was using Google and YouTube, and really diving deep into educating myself first and foremost. Because I think about this a lot. How do you impact change in the world if you can't create change in your own life? And so change happens with knowledge, and like my background says here, mindset is everything.
Sure. Now let's talk about mindset. In all of this, why is it everything?
Well, it's easy, but it's also very complicated. And here's why. Because what you think becomes what you speak, and what you speak becomes your action, and your actions become your reality. And so everything that you want to have in your life starts with the way that you think about having those things in your life. If you tell yourself you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not capable enough, you don't deserve it, it's never going to happen, then that's going to be true, because you're going to move towards creating those actions in your life, and that will be your reality. And if you tell yourself, I am capable, I am good enough, I am strong enough, I can reach that goal, I can speak on that stage, I can write that book, I can travel the world, I can be this or be that or do this, then you start to take the action. And then on a long enough timeline, and this is where people get lost, you're going to have to be extremely patient in this process, because just because you think it doesn't mean it's going to happen today, but it will happen eventually. I think about this quite often. I've been running this company and I've been speaking on stages for years and years and years. We just met. You know what I mean? Like it takes time to build the life that you want to have. And there's going to be setbacks and there's going to be fallbacks, and it's going to take you 37 years when you thought that it was going to take you 37 days. And so the thing about it is, when you really change the way that you think and you understand that as long as you keep moving forward every single day, that eventually your life can be the life that you want to have, then it will happen. But you have to have momentum. You have to keep going. You have to understand that the words that you're saying to yourself, look, I want you to think about this. This is real. Sometimes the words that we're using would make someone punch us in the face or get arrested because they're so mean. And we're saying those words to ourselves. Why would you talk to yourself like that? Right. And so that's the first thing I always say to people. Anytime I'm coaching anyone, we start with kindness. You be kind to yourself first.